the man who chose God over a king. The story of St. Thomas. What would you do if the king himself ordered you to betray your faith? Would you obey the most powerful man in the country, or stay loyal to God, even if it cost your life? This is the true story of a brilliant lawyer, a trusted advisor to a king, a loving father, and a man who died because he refused to compromise his conscience. This is the story of St. Thomas More. Thomas More was born in London, England in 1478. From a young age, he was intelligent, disciplined, and deeply religious. He loved learning. He studied law, philosophy, literature, and theology. People admired him not only because he was brilliant, but because he was honest. At a time when corruption was common, Thomas More believed that truth mattered. He became one of the most respected lawyers in England. Eventually, his wisdom and intelligence caught the attention of the king himself, King Henry VIII. And soon, Thomas More rose to one of the highest positions in the kingdom. King Henry VIII trusted Thomas More deeply. The king enjoyed speaking with him for hours about politics, religion, and ideas. Thomas More became Lord Chancellor of England, one of the most powerful positions in the country. To the world, he had everything: honor, influence, wealth, respect. But Thomas More cared more about pleasing God than pleasing people, and soon, his faith would be tested like never before. King Henry VIII wanted to divorce his wife and marry another woman, but the church refused to approve it. The king became furious. Eventually, Henry declared something shocking. He announced that he, not the Pope, would become the head of the church in England. Many people obeyed out of fear. Others stayed silent to protect themselves, but Thomas More could not agree. Not because he hated the king, but because he believed no earthly ruler could replace the authority of the church. He knew the danger of refusing the king. Still, he would not betray his conscience. Thomas More did not publicly attack the king. He simply refused to approve what he believed was wrong, but even silence became dangerous. The king demanded loyalty. Officials pressured him. Friends warned him. His family feared for his life. Yet Thomas More calmly stood firm. He once said, "I die the king's good servant, but God's first." Those words would later become legendary. Because he refused to take the oath recognizing the king as head of the church, Thomas More was arrested. He was imprisoned in the Tower of London. The powerful man who once advised kings now sat alone in a prison cell. Months passed. He was offered chances to save himself. All he had to do was compromise. Just one signature, just one agreement. But Thomas More refused. Even in prison, he prayed constantly. He wrote letters full of peace and faith. His body was trapped, but his conscience remained free. Eventually, Thomas More was brought to trial. False witnesses accused him of treason. The verdict had already been decided. He was found guilty, sentenced to death. Yet even in that moment, Thomas More remained calm. No hatred, no revenge, no fear, only faith. The man who once walked through royal halls would now walk toward execution. On July 6, 1535, Thomas More was executed. Before his death, he forgave those around him, and with courage that stunned the crowd, he declared, "I die the king's good servant, but God's first." His earthly life ended, but his witness to truth and faith lived on forever. Centuries later, the church declared him a saint. Today, St. Thomas More is remembered as the patron saint of lawyers, a defender of conscience, and a symbol of courage against injustice. St. Thomas More reminds us that true faith is not only about words, it is about standing for truth even when it is difficult. In a world that pressures people to compromise, his story still speaks powerfully today. Because sometimes the greatest courage is quietly refusing to betray what is right. If this story inspired you, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe for more Christian stories, saint histories, and powerful faith videos. And remember, some people live for power, some live for fame, but saints live for truth.